one of the enhancing qualitative characteristics as per the ISB conceptual framework. Hence, A is your right answer. Next. Which of the following is not a constraint on financial statements according to conceptual framework? We just discussed a little while ago. Which is not a constraint on the financial statements according to conceptual framework. This is the conceptual framework. 2 fundamental qualitative characteristics and 4 characteristics that enhance relevance and faithful representation. So which of these is not a constraint? Benefit versus cost. When we give something in the financial statements, there is some perceived benefit of that information contained within the financial statement and some cost to produce that particular information. So cost is a constraint that might restrict us not to include that piece of information in financial statement. So it's a constraint. It is a constraint. Balancing of qualitative characteristics. Since we need to give what is more objective, what is more quantitative, what is more dollar-based, that's the limitation. I may have very competent staff, chartered accountants, CFAs, but I cannot incorporate this valuable asset into my balance sheet because it's non-monetary. It's a qualitative characteristic. So it's an asset for the firm, but it can't be reported on the balance sheet. So this is a limitation that not all the valuable assets can be reported on the balance sheet. So it's a constraint. Qualitative characteristics that are non-monetary, cannot be monetized, can't be reported on the financial statements. It's a constraint. Cost is a constraint. But understandability is not a constraint. Rather, it is one of the characteristics that enhance relevance and faithful representation. Hence, it's our right answer. A is the right answer. Next. The assumption that an entity will continue to operate for the foreseeable future, it's called going concern. I'm sure we would have gone through these basic concepts. Accrual basis means transactions are reported or accounted for when they occur, not when the cash is received or paid. Right? Accrual accounting means transactions are reported or recorded when they occur. An expense is recorded when it is incurred, not when the cash is paid. An income is reported or recorded when it is earned, not when the cash is received. This is called accrual accounting. So, of course, we are looking for something else. The assumption that the business will continue to operate and it will continue to do so for the foreseeable future, this assumption is called the going concern assumption. This is a fundamental assumption in the preparation of financial statements. If the going concern assumption is not appropriate, let's say, just to give you an example, let's say I'm running a business and I'm a stockist. I keep certain items in my stock and I provide to the retailers. And let's say the stock value is 100 million and it is uninsured. Just a week before the year end, there was a massive fire that destroyed 90% of my inventory. Thereby remaining only 10 million, I cannot obtain funding from the bank. Let's assume we have already exhausted all the funding availabilities. We can't issue shares because it's a private limited company or it's a sole trader business. And there apparently doesn't appear any rescue. I am in trouble. My business doesn't appear that it will last next 6 months. In such a situation, when the business appears not to continue for the foreseeable future, we prepare accounts of such a business in a totally different way, which of course is which is clearly beyond the scope of your syllabus. So going concern assumption, we can just simply say that going concern assumption in this case is inappropriate. Accounts will have to be prepared totally differently. Right? So going concern assumption has to be seen that whether the business will continue to operate, then we prepare our conventional normal accounts that we normally do in our business organizations. Otherwise, things are totally different. So that makes C to be the correct option. Next, the assumption that the effects of transactions and other events are recognized when they occur not when the cash flows occur, not when the cash is paid or received. Transactions are recorded when the events occur, when when the transactions are incurred, not when the cash changes hand. This assumption is called accrual basis. B is the right answer. Right? B, surely. All right, next question. Neutrality of information in the financial statement most closely contribute to which qualitative characteristic? Let us see that layout again. ISB conceptual framework. Fundamental qualitative characteristics are relevance and faithful presentation. And there are 4 characteristics that enhance relevance and faithful representation. That's comparability, verifiability, timeliness, and understandability. Now, let's read the question again. Neutrality of information in the financial statement most closely contribute to which qualitative characteristic? When you're neutral, you're unbiased. It means the financial statement disclosure will show faithful representation. Faithful representation. You are not biased in reporting. You do not go for selective reporting, showing only the good results and hiding bad ones. You don't go for cherry picking. You are neutral. You are unbiased in information disclosure. So this will enhance this characteristic, faithful representation. Right? Neutrality means unbiased, not going for selective reporting. That makes faithful representation to be your correct option. All right, next. Valuing assets at the amount of cash or cash equivalents paid or the fair value of the consideration given, because you don't always pay cash to acquire an asset. You might issue a bond against acquiring an asset, right? So valuing asset at the amount of cash or cash equivalent paid or the fair value of the consideration given. You might have given bonds in consideration of acquiring a long-lived property. So given to acquire them at the time of acquisition most closely describe which measurement of financial statement element? It is historical cost. Historical cost means the assets and liabilities are reported at the amount paid or the consideration given to acquire them at that particular point in time. So that's historical cost. Realizable value, I'm sure you know, the amount at which the asset could be sold in an arm's length transaction. So we are looking for the cost, the price we originally paid relates to historical cost. B. The valuation technique under which assets are recorded at the amount that would be received in an orderly disposal means at a fair transaction, what you will receive by disposing of an asset. This valuation technique is that reporting the asset at a realizable value. Present value means the asset will generate a certain cash for you in the coming 4 years, let's say 10K, 15K, 5K, and including disposal 21K. So discounting these net cash flows generated by this asset and adding it up will give you the present value of the asset, right? So this is not what we're discussing. So clearly it's C. All right, next. Which of the following is not required financial statement according to International Accounting Standard number 1? Statement of financial, this is the content of IS 1. The required financial statements are balance sheet called statement of financial position, statement of comprehensive income, cash flow statement, statement of change in equity, and explanatory notes including a summary of accounting policy. So which of these is not here? Statement of financial position is here. Statement of comprehensive income is right here. Statement of changes in income. This is not a statement at all. It's a ridiculous state option, I would say. This is not a correct option. So this is not required and it's not basically a statement as per IS 1. So B is the right answer. Which of the following elements of financial statement is most closely related to measurement of performance? Performance is measured in income statement, and income statement contains the revenues and expenses, which means expenses are one of the components we use to assess the performance of a business. So yes, expenses, B is the right option. Pretty straightforward question. Which of the following elements of financial statements is most closely related to measurement of financial position? Balance sheet. What do we see on the balance sheet? Equity, assets, liabilities. Do we have any of these here? Yes, we have equity. Income and expenses, they are a measure of performance. So that's a straightforward question. A is the right option. Which of the following disclosures regarding new accounting standards provides the most meaningful information to an analyst? Again, which of the following disclosures regarding a new accounting standard? A new accounting standard has, let's say, just like leasing standard was introduced in 2018. So how does this new accounting standard will give an impact? Which of the following disclosures regarding new accounting standards provide the most meaningful information for an analyst? For me, as an analyst, I would like to see what would be the impact of the adoption of new accounting standard. Like under the new leasing standard, gentlemen, a good piece of information for you. Previously, there were two types of leases under the US GAAP. One, operating lease. Other was capital lease. These were the terms used in the US GAAP leasing standard. Operating lease and capital lease. Now first they have changed the terms as per the IFRS, operating lease and finance lease. Previously, operating lease was considered as a rental agreement or as a rental arrangement, and it was not disclosed on the face of balance sheet, just rental expenses on income statement. But under the new leasing standard, whether the lease is operating or a financing lease, you have to report both on the balance sheet. Let's say if I have acquired a lease, an asset at $10,000, needs to be reported. If the lease is designated as an operating lease, you have to report that $10,000 as an asset and a liability on the balance sheet. Same under the finance lease, same under the operating lease. Thereby, the new accounting standard relating to leases will have an impact that there is no possibility to hide your operating leases. There is no possibility for off-balance sheet financing. Operating lease is one of the ways, principal ways of obtaining off-balance sheet financing, because you are using an asset but you are not disclosing it as an asset or a liability on the balance sheet previously. But now, any asset acquired under operating lease or finance lease needs to be reported on the face of balance sheet as an asset and a liability simultaneously. So this is what I would like to see as an analyst. The impact of adoption, how would it impact? So for me as an analyst, the most meaningful information to an analyst is the impact of adoption is discussed and how it has impacted the reporting of assets and liabilities in case of leasing. So look no further. This is clearly the right option, A. Next. Providing information about the performance of a company. Performance, that is income statement. Financial position, that is balance sheet. Changes in financial position or changes in equity, that is useful to a wide range of users, is most accurately described as the role of what? It is not the role of audit report, not the role of financial statement analysis. This is the role of financial reporting. That makes A to be the correct option. All right, next. Which of the following statement best describes the role of International Organization of Securities Commissions, IOSCO? The IOSCO is the oversight body to which the International Accounting Standard Board reports. No, this is wrong. IASB doesn't report to IOSCO. IASB reports to IFRS Foundation, not to IOSCO. This is an incorrect option. B. IOSCO is responsible for regulating financial markets of member nations. Wrong. Individual regulators in India is SEBI, FCA in UK, SECP in Pakistan, SEC in the US. These are the regulators. And these regulatory bodies, members are part of IOSCO. IOSCO basically is a combination of different regulators. So they do not have this IOSCO itself doesn't have any regulatory authority. IOSCO is not a regulatory authority. It's just an umbrella organization to which these regulators are members of. That's all. So that means A is not right, B is not right, then it has to be C. The IOSCO assists in attaining the goal of cross-border cooperation, yes, in combating violation of securities law. That's a straight, perfect description of what the role of IOSCO is. C is the right option. Yes, C it is. Next, question number 18. Which of the following statement is most accurate with respect to the jurisdiction underlying the financial reporting, the boundary of financial reporting? The requirement to prepare financial reports in accordance with the specified accounting standards is the responsibility of standard setting bodies. No, that's a ridiculous option. It is not the responsibility of IASB or FASB to see whether the companies are following standards or not. This is not the role of the standard setting bodies. It is the responsibility of the regulatory authorities. SEC is responsible to see whether the firms are preparing their financial reports in accordance with the standards issued by FASB in the US and IASB in the rest of the world. So this is a wrong option. Then B, regulatory authorities are typically private sector self-regulated organization. Wrong. Regulatory authorities like SEC, like FCA, they are not private sector self-regulatory organizations. They are under the government control. Yes, IASB, FASB, they are private sector self-regulated organizations. So it means B is wrong as well. Then it has to be C. Standard setting bodies, IASB and FASB, have authority, but they are not the regulator minded. They are not the regulator, but they do have authority because they are recognized by the regulatory authorities. Regulatory authorities enforce standards, and these standards are set up or developed by IASB and FASB. So that what gives them the authority. Otherwise, standard setting bodies, IASB and FASB, they are private sector self-regulating organizations. So they are not regulators, but they do have authority because they have been recognized by the regulatory authorities. Hence, that makes C to be our correct option. All right, next. According to the International Accounting Standard Board conceptual framework for financial reporting, the two fundamental qualitative characteristics that make financial information useful are best described as relevance and faithful representation. This is what we saw in our earlier question. So without doubt, that's B. Read it a lot about them. Okay, then interim reports most likely are audited. In fact, they are most likely unaudited. Interim reports include a full set of financial and statement note. Wrong. Interim reports mostly are issued semi-annually, that's twice a year, or quarterly. That's correct. Interim reports are issued quarterly or biannually. All right, question number 21. Notes to financial statement most likely include what? A discussion of significant trends, events, and uncertainties that affect the operating results. That is MD&A, not notes. Notes to financial statements most likely include auditor's opinion as to the fair presentation of the finance. This is wrong as well. No. Notes to financial statements include supplementary information about accounting policies, method, and estimates. That makes C to be our correct option. According to International Financial Reporting Standards Framework, which of the following qualities of financial information is least likely cited as one of the two fundamental characteristics that make financial information useful. That was faithful representation and relevance, not accrual accounting. B. Which of the following statement is least accurate? IFRS Foundation trustees appoint members of ISB. That is true. It's a true statement. The ISB is monitored by a board that includes US Securities Exchange Commission. Yes, that is true as well. International Accounting Standard Board. It is overseen by IOSCO as well as European Commission as well as SEC. This is a true statement. Then, IFRS Foundation trustees oversees the policy decisions by FSB. This is totally wrong. IFRS Foundation trustees oversee IASB, International Accounting Standard Board. That was the very first question. And FASB, that develops GAAP. So they have a separate governing body. So this is wrong. IFRS Foundation trustees oversee IASB. That makes C to be the correct option. In the US, the Financial Accounting Foundation, FAF, they oversee FASB. All right, next question. The best description of a classified statement of financial position. Classified means division into current, non-current. Right? So the best description of classified statement of financial position is one that is supported by note disclosure relevant to understanding its components. Wrong. It's simply division between current and non-current assets and liabilities. That's the best option. B. Look no further. Analysts can best address the challenges of comparing financial statements prepared under the US GAAP with those prepared under the International Financial Reporting Standards. So I want to compare one set of financial statements prepared under the US GAAP with another company's financial statements prepared under the IFRS. So how can I address this challenge? Because they are totally different set of standards. There is little convergence as yet as we speak as of this very moment. So what is the best way I can address this challenge? A. Referring to the reconciliation from IFRS to the US GAAP provided in the notes. Prior to 2007, the companies operating in the US and making the regulatory filing with the SEC, they were required to draw up reconciliation between GAAP and IFRS numbers. But after 2007, it is not required. So this is now incorrect. No such reconciliation is required. Then, assuming differences are minor, given the US GAAP and IFRS convergence, yes, they are trying to converge, but there is so much that differs. Like, I'll tell you just a few examples. Impairment loss on long-lived assets, it is treated totally differently under the US GAAP and under the IFRS. Inventory valuation, under the US GAAP, LIFO is permissible. Under IFRS, LIFO is not allowed. Right? Similarly, inventory loss, impairment of assets. Once written off, a loss on inventory, a loss on an non-current asset or long-lived asset, it cannot be reversed under the US GAAP. But under IFRS, the loss on inventory write-off, impairment loss on long-lived assets, it can subsequently be reversed. There are many differences. So assuming that differences are minor, this is wrong. There are still huge differences between the US GAAP and IFRS based prepared financial statements. So this is not the best way to address this challenge. Then what we can do as analysts, we can monitor changes in both sets of standards and interpreting cautiously. So we have to keep an eye on both standards so that we know how a certain item is treated in the US GAAP and how it is treated in IFRS. So we need to interpret the numbers cautiously. That is the best option and hence is the right answer. Next, question number 26. To evaluate the potential effect of an innovative and unique type of business transaction. A transaction that is unique, a new type of innovative transaction on financial statements, an analyst's best approach is to do what? I want to evaluate the potential effect of a totally new transaction. How does it affect the financial statements? What should be my best approach? A. Monitor the actions of standard setters and regulators. Since it's a new transaction, how do we expect standard setters to foresee beforehand? Actions of regulators, normally they come later after such transactions occur. Then they try to regulate. Let's say people have started making a certain transaction A, right? Now this is a unique transaction and there is currently no such standard covering this transaction. So regulators and standard setters, they will come in action later when such transactions start occurring. Then we develop standards. So this is difficult to see how the standard setters and regulators monitor how they act, because normally they do it once the transactions start being recorded frequently by many businesses. So this is inappropriate. A is not right. Gain an understanding of the transaction's economic purpose. Yes, that's what we can do. We try to gain an understanding what is the economic purpose of the transaction, what this transaction intends to do, how does it impact the financial statements. This is the correct approach for an analyst to evaluate the effect of a new, innovative, unique transaction. Why not C? Consider the approach taken for a new transaction that arose in the past. Now, this is a ridiculous option. Since it's a new transaction, innovative transaction, it is unlikely to have any precedence, unlikely to have any prior example. It's a totally innovative new transaction, so this is clearly a wrong option. B is the right option. All right, which of the following reports is least likely to be filed with the US Securities Exchange Commission? These are the regulatory filings: S1, 10K, 10Q, DEF, all these are given in your specific readings. So Form 10K, yes, it's there. Proxy statement is also there. It needs to be filed with the SEC, contains details about the compensation of senior management. Annual report itself is not mentioned in those filings, because annual report itself becomes part of any of these regulatory filings given below. Right? This is least likely. Annual report itself. Annual report becomes part of any of these, but not separately required under the law. So that makes A to be a correct option. The International Financial Reporting Standards IFRS conceptual framework identifies fundamental qualitative characteristics that make financial information useful. Which of the following is least likely to be one of them? Faithful representation and relevance, they are, of course, but materiality itself is not the fundamental characteristic. However, materiality is an input in some form. What is materiality? Materiality is the level of details needed to attain relevance. Whether $500 is material or $50 material depends upon the relevance that we want to attain. For some businesses, this could be an insignificant amount, but for some businesses, this could be a sizable amount. So materiality is a relative term. It's the basic level of details needed to attain the relevance for the use of the financial statement. So clearly, this is not the fundamental characteristic, hence is our right answer. Then, which of the following best describes the responsibilities of Securities and Exchange Commission? In the reverse order: promoting adoption of global financial reporting standards. Basically, this is one of the objectives of IFRS Foundation, not SEC. SEC is a regulator. Wrong. Prosecuting analysts who disseminate in conclusions based upon non-material, non-public information. Now this needs little discussion. This statement is incorrect, by the way. It is not basically a violation for any analyst to disseminate or distribute conclusions based upon non-material, non-public information. It's perfectly fine, and it's not within the jurisdiction of SEC. Then what is the best description or the responsibility of SEC? Overseeing the Public Companies Accounting Oversight Board, PCAOB. That's its role, and it's the right answer. All right. The Joint Conceptual Framework Project of the International Accounting Standard Board and the Financial Accounting Standard Board, both of these are now working jointly to develop some integrated standard. Like revenue recognition is the effort of ISB and FSB. They have issued similar revenue recognition standard. So the Joint Conceptual Framework Project of the ISB and FASB guides the development of standards that are best described as integrated with local legal and economic norms. Not local, they are now international. They want to integrate, bring in many jurisdictions together. Comprehensive and complex rules. Now this is not a rule-based approach. Their combined efforts are targeted towards a more principle-based approach. A more principle-based approach rather than a rule-based approach. Right? So based upon principles that limit the range of acceptable accounting approaches. So they are trying to limit the available options so that we can reach uniformity of financial reporting across the world. That's their purpose. So that makes C to be our correct option.